Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily podcast, where we explore the latest and greatest in the world of technology and how it's changing our world for the better, and also bring you insights from some of the biggest industry leaders out there, some of the best industry leaders. And I'm your host, Neil C. Hughes, and today I've got a very special guest joining us. His name is Rohit Alimchandani, and he's the VP and Head of Life Sciences at Cognizant for the UK and Ireland. And with over 20 years experiences working with some of Europe's biggest life sciences businesses, he is an expert in his field and has a deep passion for technology and innovation. So I've invited him on the podcast today to discuss the importance of sustainability in the life science sector, the role of workplace diversity in the workforce, and this is a tech podcast, right? So how technology is advancing the industry, and touch on a few areas that you might not associate with technology. And I also want to touch on Rohit's work with Cognizant's clients, including the incredibly exciting collaboration with Amresth Health Africa, which is a leading Nairobi-based health charity. I want to learn more about that and the role of technology in that too. So buckle up and hold on tight, because it's time for me to beam your ears all the way to the UK, where you can join me and Rohit for an incredibly enlightening conversation about the power of technology across the life sciences sector. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Thanks, Neil. My name is Rohit Alimchandani. I'm a Vice President in Cognizant. I look after life sciences as an industry for Cognizant in the UK and I. I've been in tech for about 20 years now, 22 years. I'm trying to make myself younger than I actually am. It's 22 years. 16 of those have been spent in life sciences. So really quite a sharp focus on it for a very large part of my career. The rest of it was really in healthcare, so an adjacent industry.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you on the podcast today. And just to set the scene for our conversation, as the head of life sciences at Cognizant, can you discuss the importance of sustainability in the life science sector and how Cognizant is working to promote sustainable practices and innovations? Because it is a huge topic right now, isn't it?
I mean, sustainability, to be honest, is a huge topic globally, but in life sciences, it's particularly meaningful. I mean, in context of actually making drugs, life sciences companies are using all sorts of chemicals that create all sorts of byproducts. There's the way in which they then have to distribute drugs as well, right across the globe. It's not that drugs are limited to one particular country or one particular area. So in that context, in terms of the production, the distribution of drugs, their own corporate footprint with respect to travel, I think sustainability has really taken a front seat. If I look at any pharmaceutical company really now over the last couple of years, whenever they've held their partner days where they invite their sort of top suppliers to come and talk to them, the primary topic of conversation in those partner days, and these are typically led by the CXO team, has been focused around ESG and sustainability. So really, it is absolutely central to life sciences as a business today. And what you'll see as you go through the strategy of some of the largest biopharma companies around the world, it is in their stated objectives, in their stated goals. So they have net zero as a target within their core strategy and purpose as a company. So very much at the heart of what they do. And in terms of how Cognizant is working to promote these practices and drive innovation, it's really around 3 or 4 dimensions. I mean, the first thing is, look, we want to set the example ourselves. So from our perspective, we've invested a substantial amount in producing a sustainability and ESG report that we publish annually now, that contains all of our goals, all of our metrics. I think the second thing has been in around advising our clients as to how they can measure measure and track their goals a lot better. So it's advising them on what goals they should set, first of all, how they can measure those goals a lot better, and then how they track those goals as well. So it's nice to measure, but are you actually meeting those goals? Can you create meaningful information from that? And typically that's done through 2 ways. It's about consulting with our clients. So we build that capability to help our clients understand the needs. And then thirdly, with actually implementing platforms, be it in data, be it other platforms, to understand their information and gain better insight from the information that they actually collect. And I think the third thing is with a partner strategy. So we can't do it alone. that there's a limited amount of impact that a company alone can make. So what we typically do is partner with a number of other companies to actually widen the breadth of impact and effect that we can deliver into the marketplace. So, for example, that could be partnering with Salesforce on implementing their net zero cloud that helps companies capture the data. It's a platform to capture that data and then measure those goals and track against them. So it's really about three things. One, setting the example ourselves. Two, advising companies on where they should go, implementing systems to help companies understand and recognize how they actually take that forward. And the third piece is around partnering with a broader ecosystem to actually deliver that end effect and help companies understand how to actually hit those sustainability goals.
And one of the things I try and do on this Daily Tech podcast is get people thinking differently about the areas in which technology is transforming that we possibly don't always think about or even take for granted. So with your experience in the life science industry, how are you seeing technology driving progress and transformation in this sector? And can you share maybe a few examples of recent innovations that you may have seen that have had a significant impact?
Sure. I think that's a great question. I think the breadth of that question for me is there are so many possibilities because of what we're seeing. So I'll try and distill it down to at least a couple of examples. I think a couple of the use cases that we've come across when we look at, let's say, AR, VR, the metaverse today, the variety of use cases that we've seen over there is actually pretty incredible. One example, and I think the way in which I want to highlight this is through the spectrum of examples as to the applicability of something like technology. One is around patient adherence in terms of vaccinations. So we've seen the metaverse being used, or games, virtual reality games being developed for young kids to put on a virtual reality headset when they're getting their vaccinations done so that vaccinations are more easily delivered. And it makes it a less traumatic experience. I mean, that's just incredible, right? Just to go in there, you're playing a game, you don't even notice that someone's injected you with something or given you a bit of a sharp pinch there. And as a child, that completely transforms the experience of vaccination and really encourages adherence. I think on the other side of the spectrum, when it comes to virtual reality, you have digital twins, which is really about modeling systems, things, people, processes, virtually to understand the pressures on those particular systems and also how you interact with those systems remotely. A great example of it, companies have, particularly life sciences companies, have clean sites where it's very difficult to actually get into those sites unless you have specialist equipment on without contaminating those sites. There are now virtual reality models being built through for people to have a walkthrough of those sites and interact with remote machines remotely with machines in those particular sites. Quite amazing, to be honest, when you think about it, when people would take 20 minutes to actually get ready, walk into a site, risk contamination. Today, that risk of contamination is negligible, and you're getting virtually the same experience. So that's AR, VR, which is completely transforming the way in which we interact with systems. I think the second thing I want to talk about is automation. Now, automation really, it's a really broad spectrum from very simple process automation where simple tasks and repeatable tasks are automated in-house, but actually some incredible examples of robotics in terms of automation that we've seen has been recently in the lab space. There's a company, a startup that we work with called Automata, and what they've come up with is a robotic arm that actually is able to perform experiments in the lab without human intervention. Now, this can completely transform the way in which a laboratory environment works because it augments human capability. So you can do more experiments per day. You can actually have more accurate experiments. People make mistakes. Machines, once they're programmed to do something, very rarely do. So from that perspective, the quality of your lab experiments, which are absolutely critical in pharmaceuticals, the quality of that improves. The speed at which you conduct those experiments improves. That means the speed at which you get, medicines delivered to market quicker to patients who need them more quickly, that improves. And that's very meaningful as an impact to the end patients, especially when it comes to life-saving drugs. So I'd say that's two. And then the third one is really around artificial intelligence and data. And when we talk about that, everyone's going to I know it's a little bit cliche today because everyone's talking about ChatGPT and generative AI, but that truly is got a marvelous set of use cases. I mean, the immediate effect of that is there's so much medical legal review in life sciences. And again, it's not about replacing human activity, but augmenting human activity. What if you could train a machine learning bot to learn a static corpus of data and then be able to answer questions on that data or review that data in a particular context? Because it's to that limited data set, it can really accelerate the rate at which reviews are done, because the obvious glaring errors get picked up straight away. And then you have other medical practitioners who actually review that information much more carefully. But with the obvious stuff out of the way, they can actually spend time on the more nuanced issues that can be picked up. And so that accelerates the process of review, or accelerates the process of authoring certain clinical documents, which again has the net effect of getting medicines to market quicker, which is better for the patients at the end. So really a massive transformation when it comes to the overarching end patient experience, because medicines are getting to patients quicker than ever. We saw that with the COVID vaccines, which were driven by technology. And we're going to see that much more as technology plays a larger role in life sciences as we go forward.
And I'm curious, as someone that's got this proven track record of driving a broad spectrum transformation in the life science sector, and from all the conversations you're having with customers and people that you've worked alongside and businesses you've worked alongside, are there any key challenges or typical challenges that companies face when implementing digital transformation initiatives? How are you helping them overcome these challenges? Because I expect you've got more than a few war stories over the years, right?
Absolutely. And I think, look, I mean, there are some challenges, obviously, that are quite specific to certain organizations. But I would say in my experience across large biopharma, for example, certain challenges are very much ubiquitous. And I think the pharma companies are certainly looking to address these. But if I abstract it out, I would say the first one would absolutely be talent or capability. That again, to use another cliche, there is a war for talent out there because these new digital skills, quote unquote digital, are very much in demand. And I think that whilst it may be a cliche, it absolutely is a truism. Finding the right capabilities within these very niche industries that are looking for very niche types of transformations to go and deliver these medicines out to their patients, I think that talent is very difficult to come across. And the reason I say this is it's easy to find one or two individuals, but when you're looking these global, large matrixed organizations, it's not about finding one or two individuals. It's finding tens or hundreds of individuals of the right caliber and the right quality to be able to not just understand and frame the problem, but to be able to actually deliver to the objectives of these organizations. So I think talent to be able to actually build a capability that maintains a transformational thought process is a huge problem that companies face today. And typically they address that by looking outwards, looking at building a more collaborative partner ecosystem involving companies like Cognizant, our peers, and the hyperscalers and so on and so forth, to really build an ecosystem of partners that will give them the ability to scale that capability and deliver it globally. So talent for me would be really right up there. I think the second aspect of it would be culture. So what I mean is culture, not from the perspective of there are necessarily bad behaviors, but I think it's culture in terms of mindsets and ways of working. People get used to working in particular ways that have been quite traditional historically. Those traditional ways, with the advent of these new technologies, they need to be implemented differently. I'll give you a real example. Today, back in the day, let's say 10, 12 years ago, a lot of large transformation programs would have business engagement at first to understand what the business wanted. Then IT organizations go away, do this big implementation, and then you sort of come back to the business and business would say, I'm not really sure you delivered what I'm looking for. I was looking for a Ferrari. I've got a bit of a bicycle here. So that's not quite what they want. So today, these to really drive up adoption and get a lot of value, a lot of companies are saying, let's work in a more agile way. Let's work in a way that's more transformational, that engages the business throughout the life cycle of implementing projects. And as we go to more modern methods, so it's taking agile and really superpowering that with automation to go into a new DevOps delivery model, which is really about a pure automated demand to delivery life cycle when it comes to development of new capabilities, new technology capabilities. What we're really seeing is you need a lot more continuous input from the business. The business themselves have to be invested. So that distinction between what the business does and what IT does is suddenly becoming actually very blurred. That line is getting very blurred as the two organizations get very close together. And so what we're seeing is new technologies are blurring that distinction because technology very much is sitting at the core of the business, and the business needs to be able to understand technology to be able to build that. So the business needs to change its mindset and say, I'm more invested in technology and I want to drive that. And IT needs to be able to change its mindset and say, I'm not a service delivery organization into the business. I'm a partner to the business with equal stakes in this. And I need to measure myself using the same metrics that the business are measuring themselves, because ultimately what I'm delivering is a new business effect, a new capability for the business side of things to actually deliver back into patients, into the marketplace. So it really is a big change in mindset that both organizations need to adopt. And I think we try and be that bridge between the organizations to the largest extent that we can. But equally, I think it's not just about being the bridge, but it's about trying to help the business understand in layman's terms, maybe the technology challenges that arise there and educating them a lot more on how they could get better. And that's maybe one way of addressing the culture issues, but equally by trying to help some of the more technology-oriented specialists to understand just how important some of the business considerations are, no matter how small they might be. So it's that change in culture, the shift in mindset to really understand each other a lot better. And that really has been one of the big challenges that I think large biopharma have faced in, I guess, over the past couple of years. Sorry, a long answer to what was quite a succinct question.
No, not at all. And I think that those words and everything that you just revealed there will resonate with people listening in multiple industries. It's something that I've seen out there in the corporate world, and I'm sure many people listening will have too. And another big trend this year, of course, is businesses waking up to the importance of workplace diversity and how it is essential for business success, especially if any business wants to effectively serve a diverse audience. They need a diverse workforce. And equally, I would say that particularly in the world of technology, to solve any problem, especially complex problems, you're going to need diversity of thought. So can you share your thoughts on the importance of diversity within the workforce and how you see it contributing to things like innovation and success in the life science industry, and also how at Cognizant you're fostering diversity and inclusion within the company as well?
Absolutely. And I think, look, first of all, diversity is very close to my heart. So alongside being the sort of leader for life sciences for the UK and I in Cognizant, I'm also the head of the D&I Council, the Diversity and Inclusion Council for the UK and I. So very much an area that really excites me, because in my personal view, and also based on all of the research that we've done right across Cognizant, I think, first of all, companies that are more diverse produce better outcomes for their customers and for their employees, ultimately. And for me, what diversity means in that context is not just we're talking about a specific type of diversity. It's along multiple dimensions. First of all, it's gender is something that we can start off with, but really it's about socioeconomic diversity. It's about race. It's about neurodiversity. There are so many aspects of this that we need to look at. And I think life sciences companies, to be absolutely fair to them, have truly embraced that. When I look at their organizations, at least the organizations that I've worked with, they are wonderfully diverse. And the reason for that is, for me, you never make that link, but they are such global organizations. They have a footprint everywhere. From that perspective, by having a footprint, in almost 80 or 90 countries, especially for the biggest organizations, they have a very differentiated understanding of diversity because they see so much of it in their day-to-day work. Everyone is exposed to it within their organizations in one way or another. So I think from that perspective, the life sciences industry truly has embraced it very well. And I think that's where we see so much innovation happening with these diverse teams. A couple of examples, there are captive centers for certain organizations who have set up centers in India, in Malaysia, and coupled them with centers in Canada and San Francisco. And it's about having those different mindsets all coming together from different cultures to actually produce innovation for these organizations. But what we've seen is these are the organizations that have truly shifted the needle when it comes to delivering growth within their own organizations, but also impact for patients that's really more meaningful. And from a Cognizant perspective, I think it's a topic for us that's been very close to us right from the start, because we're an American company that has a very large footprint in India. And of course, we operate across 50 other countries as well. So almost equally to some of these large life sciences organizations, we have that experience of working in a multicultural, multi-race environment. So from our perspective, it is very much at the heart of our strategy. What we're doing, particularly in the UK, our council focuses on setting the agenda for the D&I engagements that we're going to run throughout the year. So that's really falls under our remit. There's 10 of us who work with HR, who work with the different groups within the organization to set the agenda. This year, the focus is on gender balance. And then what Cognizant's doing is setting up these councils to represent all of these various diversity initiatives right across all of our countries and the rest of our footprint. Alongside those councils are affinity groups that we set up as well that are specific to, so the council looks at diversity from a broader spectrum, but the affinity groups are more aligned to special interest groups that really want to create a community for people with different needs from different socioeconomic backgrounds to help each other, support each other, and thrive in Cognizant. So we really encourage that. So there's really a variety of measures that we've put in place to deliver on that promise.
And we've mentioned briefly the events of the last few years and how life changed, and also in particular in the life science, the rush for vaccines and how quickly things progressed there and how everyone working together to make something happen. And when I was doing a little research on this, I quickly learned about a COVID tracking app that was developed by Cognizant for Sensign Health. Is there anything you can share around that, just to illustrate how you've been working together to fast track things like this?
With the Sensign Health collaboration, I think was for us is something that we're super, super proud of. This was actually done in a very close partnership with Microsoft. So it is about leveraging the broader ecosystem to actually deliver what was, I think, quite a meaningful impact in a very difficult time. But what was really interesting was we actually delivered this app in about 16 days.
Wow. With
the first prototype delivered in 10 days. So I think whilst my team didn't deliver this app, it was delivered by our public sector and health team. From an approach that we adopted to deliver this, it was truly unique, very prototype driven, but it was really an example of how development is going to happen for a lot of things in the future, which is about working with a hyperscaler, picking up some of the tools that they bring, us looking at it, applying a industry perspective or an industry envelope on it, prototyping it very quickly by spinning up a team that's collaborative, working closely with the clients here to understand whether it's meeting. So it's really about that culture of bringing everyone together, applying that footprint, as we talked about earlier, to contextualize that prototype. And the reason it was good and it worked and we were able to deliver is because all three parties and all three partners played their part in actually delivering value to getting this done in 10 days. So from 16 days for a big product, but 10 days for the initial prototype, which I thought is something that we're exceptionally proud of.
Yeah, quite rightly so. And as we look towards the future, how do you envision the future of the life science industry, especially considering the ongoing advancements in technology? And you mentioned a few moments ago about generative AI, ChatGPT, etc. It feels like the world's moving at such a rapid pace as regards technological change right now. So how do you see the future, and what role do you see Cognizant playing in shaping this future too?
I think, look, that for me, I think looking at the industry more broadly, if I look at biopharma in particular, what we've seen really is a lot of the low-hanging fruit with respect to medicines and discovery of medicines. A lot of them have been discovered, and it's getting harder and harder for companies to deliver blockbuster drugs that are very targeted at broad populations and that are efficacious for broad populations. So we're seeing, the future of life sciences is really going to be in precision medicine, which is medicines that target specific cohorts or subsets of populations based on their genome or broader genetics. And I think as we move into the world of precision medicine, 2 or 3 things become really important. The first is data, AI, ML. I think that lies at the heart of being able to process these incredibly vast data sets that precision medicine will require. I think the second is the platforms to be able to interact and visualize and consume that data. So it's not just processing that data, but the ability to actually consume that data and use it meaningfully to actually drive medicine discovery and drug discovery process. And I think it's really the talent behind that as well. So where I feel we'll play, it's going to be really in that data part, because our company 25, 27 years ago, when we were born as a data company, and I think that's still our strongest pedigree. That's still the area that we probably spend the most amount of investment growing, because that's what's fueling life sciences today. And I think the talent and expertise to process, manipulate that data, and the talent and expertise to implement platforms and advise companies on how to take on the technology to be able to actually discover and build those medicines and make those medicines faster. So I think that's really where we see ourselves playing a very key role, whether that's in the R&D space, whether that's in being able to sell those medicines better in the commercial space, or even manufacture them better. I think it's really across the entire value chain.
And on this podcast every day, I always say technology works best when it brings people together. We start solving problems that ultimately make the world a better place. And before you came on, I was doing a little research. I was also reading about Cognizant's partnership with Amresth Health Africa, and now that development of a digital and integrated training and reporting system is aimed at helping improve healthcare access and ultimately break the cycle of poverty in African countries. Is that something you can expand on too? It sounds like inspirational work there.
Yeah, look, this is something that I'm personally very proud of. My family was based in Africa for a number of years, almost 2.5 decades. So as a continent, Africa is one that certainly is very resonant or brings back memories of my childhood, because I spent a lot of time there. And it was amazing to be able to actually give something back to what is, it may have its challenges, but an absolutely wonderful place. And today the African continent is experiencing a very acute shortage of health workers right across the board. COVID's made that worse. And what we did really is partner with GSK and with Amresth Health Africa. So it was jointly funded by Cognizant and GSK, and then we partnered with Amresth Health Africa to uplift, enhance their worker training programs by giving them, at the simplest level, it's really about making sure that where health workers are needed most, we help health ministries target those areas. So if I was to put it in the most basest of terms, I would say it's really about matching demand of where health workers are needed. Okay, there's a cholera outbreak or a malaria outbreak in this particular area, and this area needs health workers the most. Using the integrated tools and platforms that Cognizant has developed, we were able to actually allow the ministries of health of these countries to be able to target those areas best by either training more health workers there, or by making sure that health workers are able to deliver the best care by focusing on those particular areas. So, and actually, the more they use that platform to do that, the better they get at it, because the platform actually generates insights to give you more predictive views as to where things may be required in the future as well. So it was really quite a simple platform that just integrated their integrated Amresth's health training platform, their case working and case reporting platform, to just make sure that there is a clear view of supply and demand. And I think what we're really proud of is, okay, we built that and that's had an impact. But last October, when we actually delivered the program, we handed off the work to Amresth to say, look, now this is up to you to go deliver it. So we built it in such a way that they themselves were able to take it over, to be able to enhance it for the future. So there's no dependency on coming back to GSK or Cognizant that says continually help us. We've made it really self-sustaining for them to be able to update that for the future. And from what I understand now, that it's been rolled out to 8 countries where Amresth are dealing directly with the ministries of health of those countries to say, look, this is how you use the platform, and this is how we can help you. So really meaningful impact, and something that we're incredibly proud of.
Wow, it's absolutely incredible. I love that. And as we get towards the end of the podcast now, I'm now going to ask you to reflect and look back on your career, and drawing from your 20 plus years of experience in the life science industry. For any business leader or founder or anybody listening, what advice would you give to a business looking to adapt and transform their operations through digital technology, but while also ensuring sustainability and social impact? They're such big factors right now. Any advice that you would offer to anyone listening around that?
I think a couple of very simple points, actually. Look, there is so much. I mean, life sciences companies typically have so many options when it comes to what they can choose to do and where they actually target their energies and efforts. And typically, I think the only advice I'd give is prioritization, and that prioritization is delivered on the basis of the impact to their end customer, and their end customer is the patient. So if they're patient-centric and driven by what's most meaningful to the patient, they can never go wrong, because that's where they're going to be able to make the most meaningful impact as an organization and deliver drugs that save the most lives. But equally, it's what's going to help them develop their own organizations and grow their own organizations. So really putting patients at the heart of it all in a meaningful way, and targeting technology that drives patient engagement and improves patient lives the most. So I would say that's the first one. And I think the second one, particularly around sustainability, I think a lot of companies can have sustainability as a box tick. And I think my only advice would be, don't make it a box tick, actually make it very central to to how you work and what you do. So incentivize the whole organization, not just put it as a box tick in your strategy to be able to deliver on sustainability. Because sustainability, it's not just about targeting people with specific medicines, it's about the future of the entire human race. So it's much broader than that. And I think when you incentivize and make it meaningful to each and every person who works in your organization, it really gives them a larger purpose that they can aspire to.
Love that. And finally, on a more personal note, of course, if any of us look back on our career and our lives, none of us are able to achieve any degree of success without a little help along the way. So is there a particular person that you're grateful towards? Maybe they helped get you where you are. Maybe they just saw something in you, invested a bit of time in you. Who would that person be? And we can give them a little thank you and a shout out to them.
Certainly. Look, personally, obviously, you could do the full Oscar speech here with your family and everything. But really, if I look at it professionally, there's one particular individual that I think has had an immense impact on my career. I still work with him. It's a vice president in Cognizant. His name's Gagan. He was my boss for a number of years. And to his credit, he's still in Cognizant. So I give him a lot of credit for being patient with me. But ultimately, what he did is mentor me. So if I just take a step back, actually, he spotted something in me when it comes to either my ability to talk very quickly or articulate things well in a way that he feels that I could engage with people well. He spotted that talent. He's nurtured that. He's mentored me to nurture that, and really mentored me for the last 10, 12, 15 years to develop me into the leader that I am today. And I'm very grateful to him, because I think without him spotting that talent and encouraging me to do something slightly different from what I was doing, I certainly don't think I would have landed up in this role. I think I would have had a very different career path. And I can practically remember the conversation we had back in 2011. I was doing a project recovery for him, where he said, look, I want you to move into a broader spectrum leadership role. And I said, really, me? I don't think I could do it. And he said, no, I really believe in you. I think you should. and I want you to do it. Follow through, try it out for 6 months, see what you think. And we've never looked back. I mean, to bring it down to that pivotal conversation, I still recall it so clearly, is amazing. So yeah, he's been a real inspiration in the way in which he leads, and I certainly follow that and want to give him a shout out.
Awesome. Well, consider it done. And I think it's a beautiful moment to end on. But before I do, Cognizant is a huge website, and we're only talking about life sciences today and some of the great work you're doing. For anyone listening, wanting to dig a little bit deeper on some of this work and maybe even contact your team, what's the best starting point for everything? Where would you like to point everyone listening?
I think for us, I mean, obviously the website, as you called out, is available, but I think LinkedIn is probably where I'm most active. So to anyone listening, feel free to reach out, ping me on LinkedIn. Be more than happy to address any questions you have. And of course, it would be great to have a chat.
Awesome. Well, I love chatting with you today about, yes, how technology is progressing the life science industry, but also the importance of workplace diversity and sustainability, bringing that into the conversation in life sciences. So more than anything, just a big thank you, Rohit, for sharing your story today. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil, and lovely to be here. Thank you very much.
So a big thank you to Rohit for joining us and sharing his insights on technology, sustainability, workplace diversity, and how together they're all driving the life sciences sector forward. For me, it was great hearing more about his work with Cognizant and how it's led to innovative projects like that digital training and reporting system in Amresth Health Africa, and most importantly, putting the control in their hands. So I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did, and hopefully you gained a few valuable insights from Rohit's experience and expertise. And please remember to subscribe to Tech Talks Daily if this is your first episode. I've got so many big industry leaders and tech enthusiasts lined up to come on over the next 3 months. In fact, I've got 70 interviews booked in already. So I'm going to be very busy over the summer. And as always, if you have any questions, comments, suggestions for future episodes, you can reach me at techblogwriteroutlook.com, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram at Neil C. Hughes. But all I've got to say before leaving you today is keep exploring the world of technology and stay curious. But most importantly, thank you for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.